The following is a fictitious retelling of the 2001 NASCAR season and beyond. This program is intended to be respectful and is not an attempt to slander or defame any of the people included. The storylines within do not represent the views or opinions of the brands and personalities involved.
Busch practice commences at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Taylor Fry and Nick Burgold both are eager to hit the track. They both go through the same routine. Nick, however, feels the need to impress. As the unsure car handles the unraced asphalt, his crew chief keys up, asking him to tone it down. Nick ignores, and he looks across the tri-oval as he crosses across the line and sees the 22 move up to P1. He cracks a smile and glances back at the track. He suddenly realizes the car's gone too far in the turn 1 without lifting. Standing on the pit lane is Taylor, a small smile forming on his face. He wipes it away quickly before a few members of Team Penske walk by him. The word of Nick's accident will take some time to travel to his boss, Roger Penske. The captain is off worried about something else, something near and dear to his racing heart. In the heart of America, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway sits, hosting its forever iconic month of May. This year, perhaps, is unlike any other that the near-century-old Speedway has ever seen. Not since the overgrown weeds of post-World War II has the Speedway seen such peril of existence. A divide of powers between various figureheads led to an era of accelerated decline and struggle throughout America's premier open-wheel series. Tony George sits as the man with the most chips, owning the Speedway and the accompanying IRL series. He has held steady through his previous 5 years of choices, and now the power struggle seems to have finally started to come his way. Last year saw the return of headline team Chip Ganassi in the Indy 500, and this year, Roger Penske has brought drivers Elio Castroneves and Gilles DeFerrin back to the Speedway. The return of these teams is brought with cautious optimism for George. On one hand, the idealism of kart supremacy has lessened drastically. Gone are head-to-head races with the 500, and the return to prop up what should be the two series' biggest race. But last year, Juan Pablo Montoya won for Chip Ganassi in dominating fashion. Kart destroyed the humble IRL field, and Tony Series in effect was embarrassed. Now with another juggernaut contending, George can only pray that his feeble yet vast IRL teams can overcome Ganassi and Penske. As the track opens in Charlotte, drivers crawl onto the track, led by Casey Atwood. The 19 team has come in hungry this weekend, sitting 5th in points, nearing the completion of the first third of the season. And after some poor runs by the 40 team of Sterling Marlin, Atwood now sits as the highest Dodge in points as well. It has made most forget about how young he really is. Whilst he has ran well, he has not had race-winning pace yet, being the driver with the least laps led in the top 10 in points. His 11 total laps is shadowed by the 1,500 Jeff Gordon has led thus far. Gordon's dominance places him comfortably above the two Walsh brothers sitting behind him in standings, Rusty 90 back and Kenny 142. Almost the 29 has been the biggest surprise this year in terms of improvement of new drivers and driver team combinations. The 20 car Tony Stewart is on the exact opposite side of that spectrum. Whilst Tony has his win earlier this year at California, he sits 20th in points, with only one other top 5 finish, that being at Las Vegas earlier in the season. Perhaps his current position is under even more of a microscope for what he has been doing earlier in the day. Starting in the dead center of the 33 car field, Tony is running the double. It's only the second time he's done it in his career. And with Felipe Giafone sitting on the pole for the 85th Indianapolis 500, he is accompanied on the front row by Buzz Calkins and 1996 winner Buddy Lazier. So far, IRL is holding strong, but qualifying pace is much different than race pace. "40 Busch cars are ready to take the field green. Kevin Harvick sits on the pole with championship rival Jason Keller to his outside. Behind him sits Cody Wartle, and fourth, Jeff Burton in the 9 for Roush. The field pulls off and gets ready to go green. Harvick controlling the pace.
The bad boys of the Busch Series line up for one of their biggest races of the season, the CarQuest Auto Parts 300 here from Lowe's Motor Speedway. Hope you're ready at home because we're going green. Oh, guys in the infield here. Kevin Harvick's around. Harvick sliding is going to hit the inside wall. Not how you want to start this one today, and it's a tough break for the 2 team.
Kevin climbs out frustrated, but walks with track officials. Cody doesn't say a word as he continues his race. The 3 would come home 8th that night, Harvick dead last, and Mike Skinner the winner. He takes the 21 to victory lane once again, showing speed that many thought the driver had lost over the last couple years. The championship standings, meanwhile, has been blown wide open. Jason Keller, with the misfortune of Austin Delgado, has grabbed a 226-point lead. Jeff Green moves up with his good night, and Harvick from the incident moves to 5th, losing 3 spots. At the Roush race shop, Ray Jacobs is called in for the night. A late Saturday meeting. For him, this is an odd occurrence. Never has he had a meeting scheduled later than 5. But this was for 9. He notices the barren parking lot. Only the few vehicles, presumably for the night maintenance and security. He walks into the dark shop, spiritless, quiet. Piercing through the blackness is a light from a cracked door. He strolls to the glimmer to find Jack Roush in his office. He is alone, and staring daggers into Jacobs. Ray makes a sarcastic remark about working late to him, attempting to break the ice between the frigid exchange, but Jack replies with a stern command to sit down. "Who the hell do you think you are?" he says, his fury being uncorked. Before Jacobs can reply, Roush continues his berating. His main points are Jacobs' cockiness, noticeably after one Cup win. He critiques the usage of Ray Jacobs and how he thinks he knows better than his team owner. A man that has had far more success than he has ever had. As Jacobs sits through a fury that has not yet been experienced in his career, he hears a piece of information that stuns him. Jack tells about Bill Franch Jr. approached him recently, saying that Ray Jacobs willingly came up to him and asked him to help with his boss and to get him to change his mind on certain things. Ray realizes one thing. He got set up. It is nearing midnight, and Cody Wartle is walking through the motor lot, trying to find his car. He has been strolling for nearly an hour before he turns a corner and is grabbed. The person takes Cody by the shoulders and slams him against the side of a motorhome, his head slapping lightly against the side. The man acknowledges him by name and then insults him. It is Kevin Harvick, and it appears to be retribution for what happened on the track. Wartle appears dazed by the impact. Harvick, ignoring his delirium, grabs Cody by his jacket and shirt, the fabric stretching and tearing now. He calls him an ass kisser and leans in close to Wartle's face. He continues with the insults, calling him a yes man, an idiot that conforms to what he calls a BS agenda by Dale. He readjusts his grip, tightening it even more, and begins to actually choke him with his collar. Wanting a reaction from Cody, he tells him he's going to beat his ass, and waits. There's nothing. He just stares, but not at Harvick, or the hands that choke him. He almost looks delirious. An empty stare. Zero fear. Harvick, puzzled by the reaction, lets go a little, giving Cody time to get his wits about him. He reiterates himself, but again no reaction. He completely lets go of Wartle, his feet returning to the ground, but that same stare remains. Kevin shoves Cody lightly, trying to again get a reaction. This time he snaps too and makes eye contact with Kevin. Expecting some blowback from before, he prepares. But Cody just pats Harvick on the side of the arm and greets him before walking into the infield. Kevin doesn't know what to think. Does he pursue? Does he yell? Or had he already got his point across? Helicopters swirl above the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, gathering the best views of the track. The gates have opened, letting in an army of race fans for the pilgrimage they have planned for well over a year. Inside the garage, the hollowed gasoline alley plays host to a plethora of teams and crews. Some have done this year after year, others their first time. And for the returning rebels, a sensation untapped since 1995. Regardless, they all share a common emotion: anticipation. This race is unwavering in its effects on every human it brushes with. And for Roger Penske, possibly the greatest car owner to have ever put automobiles onto their road oval, he, like any other, is anxious. Along the pit lane, a mob of hungry race fans sit mere inches from crews preparing speeding bullets for today's entertainment. Among them is Chip Ganassi, talking to one of his drivers, Tony Stewart. He jokes with Chip about beating Ganassi driver Sterling Marlin for the pole in today's evening race, the Coca-Cola 600. But also game plans his attack for this race. It's all pre-race routine, until the playing of taps, the national anthem, and the singing of Back Home Again in Indiana.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the hills I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
Welcome back to our coverage of the 85th running of the Indianapolis 500. Only 10 laps are left, and it is still Billy Boat chasing the A.J. Foyt Enterprises machine of Eliseo Salazar.
A pack of 7 cars lead the field, dominated by IRL drivers who have held strong all day. Eliseo Salazar leads over Billy Boat and Jacques Lazier. Behind in 4th is the rookie Casey Mears, and 5th, Jarrett Schroeder. 6th is Helio Castroneves, the lone kart driver in the top 7. But not alone in the pack that he is with. His teammate Gilles de Ferran pushes him, 1 lap down, trying to help. The last car in line after being involved in an incident is Michael Andretti, barely clinging on to the draft. Off of 1 with 10 laps left, Mears misses the corner and allows the Penske's to move up 1 spot. With 8 to go, Boat starts applying pressure, harder and harder. The eternally mobbed Indianapolis Motor Speedway is now stood up and is preparing to watch yet another historic moment. Suddenly, Castroneves stabs through his teammate and Jarrett Schroeder to 4th place. The top 3 soon catch a duo of lap cars with Woodrill and Vassar. Salazar is checked up in the 1, and Boat attempts a power move around the top. They run wheel to wheel and charge through the short chute, still holding equal off of 2 and down the backstretch. And eventually, the battling allows for Castroneves to catch up to them into 3. Now with 5 laps left, Boat has grabbed the lead from Salazar. Eliseo regroups as lap traffic pollutes the lead battle. Coming to 4 to go, they put nearly a second on 4th place. And now Salazar has the space to make his race-winning move.
Salazar's going to have to do everything he can to get around Boat. The Ganassi car playing blocker, but Boat goes up the hill. Here comes Salazar to the inside. They make contact. They're going into the wall. Salazar and Boat, they're going to be out of it. They're out of the running for the Indianapolis 500, and this is big. Shades of 89 as Casey Mears piles in with a harrowing impact. And I believe it's going to be Helio Castroneves taking the lead. Helio Castroneves across the yard of bricks. He is your leader, and the caution, they're going to have to end it with this one. The last time a Brazilian had his face on the Borg Warner Trophy was with Roger Penske's driver Emerson Fittipaldi 8 years ago. But now it's going to be Helio Castroneves adding his face to the legendary list of winners. And welcome back, Roger Penske. You get to drink the milk.
A celebration begins in the yard of bricks, and a helicopter ascends from the infield and proceeding full throttle southeast. Tony Stewart is on his way to Charlotte. Light begins to taper away from the Lowe's Motor Speedway as 40 Cup cars roll out onto the grid. Among them is the Home Depot 20 car, driven by Tony Stewart. The car is vacant of its driver, and whilst it may sit at the front of the field, the drivers will move the car to the rear for the start of the race. He missed the traditional drivers' meeting. The penalty moves Ricky Rudd up to the provisional 1st place, and Sterling Marlin starting 2nd on the outside. Marlin beats Rudd to the line, but a command comes from the tower. Black flag, 40 car. He beat the leader to the line. Marlin and the crew are beside themselves. They were the control car. How could they beat the leader to the line if they are the leader? The argument lasts 2 of 3 permitted laps before Marlin is no longer scored. The 40 car comes down pit lane. He joins Stewart in the back, who is slowly picking through the field as well. Ricky Rudd leads the opening laps before the first caution on lap 35, for Stacey Compton pounding the wall. The race restarts with Marlin staying out, and on the inside, beating the leader into 1 before a quick yellow for Ricky Craven having an engine let go. Marlin is able to get back to the lead lap, as all come down during these cautions, giving Dale Jarrett the lead. The race breaks into a long green flag run, with Marlin beginning in March as Jarrett holds strong through the cycles. As Marlin cracks top 5 on pace just 260 laps into the race, Casey Atwood finds himself racing Jeff Gordon for 9th. Atwood is pushing Lowe, and then he touches the apron and slides into the 24. Atwood pulls back forward as Gordon, the points leader, sits destroyed and frustrated. Casey feels the incredible weight of embarrassment sit on him as he pulls back into the pit lane. With this caution, there is 135 laps to go, setting up a very unique situation. When do you pit? Many plan to run long on the first stint, but with 98 laps to go, Sterling Marlin pits. It's obvious that they are going to go for a 2-stop race, and to not save fuel. He would need to make up a total of 45 extra seconds in order to make it work. Jarrett runs the 69 laps to go, whilst the others ride a little bit longer. The lead goes to Marlin for about 20 laps before he makes his final stop with 46 laps left. Coming out about 16 seconds behind Jarrett in 11th, he races under 20 to go, and the lead is only 6 seconds. Marlin charging faster, and finally he realizes that Jarrett is prone to his strategy. Dale has to save fuel, and is losing tremendous time to the 40 car. As various others bail for pit lane, Marlin marches closer and closer. With under 3 seconds to gain, he has 10 laps left. He keeps charging, and then finally, with 6 laps to go, Jarrett is in a panic. Marlin screams by and goes on to win his 2nd crown jewel in as many races. In victory lane amongst his team, an interviewer gets to Sterling and inquires about the start. Sterling, not forgetting what happens, slams NASCAR for the mistake. It stirs the pot even more. Even in triumph, Sterling Marlin didn't forget. Garages open for the Dover weekend. Many teams and drivers already developing their plans for the event. Points leader in Cup, Rusty Walls, sits by himself, looking at his watch, eager to get in and make the first runs of the day. It has been since 1998 that Rusty has led the standings, and the possibility of title number 2 on the horizon incentivizes him to put a spear into the harder challenger, Jeff Gordon. Rusty knows all too well of every race mattering, winning the 1989 title by the slimmest of margins. And now, just 12 years later, he holds each race with a weight of enormous magnitude. Whilst Rusty's points lead is slim, a sole 6 points, Jason Keller and Busch has a wide gap of over 200 over Austin Delgado. The two leaders in standings match each other by grabbing the poles for their respective races, and they lead the field coming to green. Jason Keller dominates the day in Busch, en route to another career victory. Rusty Walls falls through the field after only 10 laps, and Jeff Gordon moves to the front and dominates most of the day. He would win his 4th race of the season in only 13 races, beating Johnny Benson, who would come home a career-best 2nd place. Bill Elliott puts together his best run of the year with a 3rd, and Bobby Labonte would come home 4th. Rusty finishing 7th. While still in the hunt, he is irate with his performance, believing he could have won the race. As he walks straight back to the infield, he leaves the track immediately, wanting to regroup for Michigan. Taylor Fry sits in his comfy apartment space in Charlotte, rewatching this weekend's Busch race. He's at the end where it is showing the results of the event and going through interviews. He began talking to Nick Bergwald, a 5th place finish on the day. In his post-race conversation, he talks about how proud he is of the run and the opportunity that he is in, and that he is making the most of it. He also briefly mentions how he has the best Penske car on the day, the other being Taylor in 11th. As Taylor finishes watching the interview, His phone rings. He glances over to see the caller ID. Nick Bergwald. He instinctively reaches to pick it up, knowing he is calling about plans for tonight. A tradition of theirs. But he hesitates before picking the phone off the ringer. He glances back at the TV to again see the results of the race, and the 22 and 5th. He looks back at the caller ID as the ring finally goes to a click, and then the answering machine. Over the next month, the Busch Series has only one scheduled race, giving them a much needed break after the hard charge of racing they saw from Daytona to Dover. With that, the Truck Series takes a much larger spotlight with its big race at Texas. Points leader Joe Ruttman sits on the pole, holding a comfortable 74-point lead over Ted Musgrave, who starts second. Third on the night is a storyline of the evening, David Starr, making a one-off attempt for John Menard. He has shown some speed and promise in what is his first real attempt in a quality ride in the Truck Series. The only question for him to answer tonight is if he could fulfill it. In the end, it turns out pretty easy to do for David Starr, as he captures his first career victory at Texas Motor Speedway. Starr stuns many, as he establishes himself as another up-and-coming Truck Series regular. In Michigan, the sun shines bright over the pale asphalt, glaring in the eyes of all in attendance, causing quite a headache for rookie starter Cody Wartle. He is in his first attempt in the part-time 30 car. Wartle stands 32nd on the grid, the same area of the pack he started in for his first Cup start. The beaming pain in his head is his only focus, as the flyover makes his ears ring more than normal. As he climbs in, an environment that should be common now feels foreign. He trains his eyes to the dash, and suddenly a voice yells from the outside of the cockpit to start the car. He looks over to see the crewman motioning. He hits the ignition and starter, revving the V8 engine, and then lifts his foot off the clutch to begin the roll-off. The car stalls, and he quickly refires the engine, and finally flies off the pit lane behind the field. As first pit stops approach, Wartle runs 25th. He shoots the car down the pit lane at a normal speed and pulls up to his pit box. The crew does a normal 4-tire stop and drops the jack to let go. As the car slams the concrete stall, Wartle's head rings. His eyes go completely out of focus. He grabs the shifter and slams it with the gas, ripping the rear end gear out of the car. The crew watches in horror as their maiden voyage with their rookie driver ends with a rookie mistake. The dominance continued for the winner of the Cup race at Michigan. Ricky Rudd for Robert Yates would lead 127 laps and win over Jeff Burton and Sterling Marlin. Gordon would come home 4th, making sure nobody would close on him in standings. Rookie Kevin Harvick would come home 5th, closing the gap in Rookie of the Year standings to Casey Atwood, who would finish 14th. He would not be the best finishing rookie on the day, though. That would go to Jason Leffler in 8th. Pocono continues the march into the summer, as Ricky Rudd would win the pole for the 500-mile event. But he'd only hold the lead for 33 laps on the day, as Jeff Gordon would dominate, leading 125 laps. His win caps off 2 consecutive second-place finishes for Jeff Burton, and opens his points lead to 95 over Rusty Wallace now, who came home 4th. Already 5 wins in 15 races in the season, a rate only matched by his 1998 pace. Kenny Wallace falls a spot to Ricky Rudd in points, and Sterling Marlin moves back into the top 5. Atwood still sits as the highest rookie though, but Harvick is starting to close in, only about 150 points back, with missing a race. He passed rookie Ray Jacobs, who has appeared to have lost a step in his run for Rookie of the Year. and Jeff Burton, with his back-to-back second-place finishes, has moved up 7 spots in standings. Jason Leffler drives up to the Chip Ganassi headquarters, the annual Monday morning competition meeting, the one he is much less fearful of entering. However, as he approaches the small meeting room, he is greeted by awkward looks from all in attendance. Leffler can sense there is a sour mood, and that for some reason, he is the focus. Suddenly, Chip Ganassi grabs Leffler by the shoulders, greeting him, spinning Jason towards the direction of someone he has never met. The man shakes his hand and greets himself as Dorsey Schrader. Chip interjects, saying this will be the driver of the 01 car this weekend. Jason's heart sinks. They walk out of the shop, where sitting next to what was Leffler's 01 car is a bastardized version of it, numbered 04. Leffler walks up to it, looking in and seeing none of the interior prepared. The realization soon hits him what position he is now put in. He has no owner points, and the worst car in the fleet. Qualifying is underway at Sonoma Raceway, and Ricky Rudd sits on the pole. He's fairly comfortable, as much of the remaining cars are back markers. Of the people in the back of the pack, Dorsey Schrader sits as one of the anxious drivers. He set down a horrid lap time, struggling with the team he is one-offing with. And with a handful of drivers left, he has to hope he is not pushed out of the field. Of those drivers left is his teammate, Jason Leffler, sitting on pit lane, prepping to go on track. The cobbled-together crew are dreading the result. The car is at best a backup car, and most of these men are young engineers getting their first opportunity at proving themselves. The 04 car rolls off.
Next up, it is Jason Leffler in the third entry here for Chip Ganassi Racing, also sharing the Special Olympics scheme this weekend here at Sonoma. The 04, it's a ragtag crew, some extra guys from the shop at Ganassi with the ringer put in. As you see Leffler dirt tracking it here at the road course. He's not really experienced with these road courses. That's why they put Schrader in the car, getting a lot of curb there and up the hill. Downshifting, using everything that 04 has in it. Leffler making good pace so far. Had an alright season. Trying to make something happen here. Spark some new life here in a new number. That seems like he's fighting some real gremlins. Car wasn't really up to speed in practice, locking the brakes up coming into the hairpin. Gonna have to see what this lap time is as he comes around. His teammate Dorsey Schrader actually on the bubble right now. As we come down across the line, Jason Leffler, what's the time? The 119.1, that's gonna put Leffler in the show. Leffler's gonna make it in the third Ganassi car this weekend, and Dorsey Schrader, the road ringer, is gonna be out.
The 04 crew are ecstatic, jumping in jubilation. The 01 team is silent. Leffler coasts the car on the track, taking in what he has just done. He has defied the odds, proved he can compete, but at the price of the team he competes with. He gets out of the car near the 01 crew, and as the young men he has only worked with for a week mob him at the window, the eyes of men he's worked with for months stare with scorn of defeat. It's 8 to go, and Dale Jarrett has been leading for majority of the second half. He's been on a two-stop strategy. However, whilst Jeff Burton runs second, sitting on a three-stop strategy, he has to come from behind, but currently has the fresher tires. He attacks the 88, racing hard and sending him into the dirt off of turn 10. The 88 drifts wide, barely missing the outside wall and sliding high into turn 11. This is enough for Burton to get him, and drives home to a relatively comfortable win. It caps off a great stretch of races for Burton, and gives him momentum as we move into the summer stretch of 2001. The spry summer sun smashes down on the evening streets of downtown Charlotte. His lively bodies commerce through the warm concrete plots. A local restaurant sits, holding Austin Delgado, waiting patiently for his delayed dinner date. 15 minutes past the promised time arrives Cody Wartle, walking through the restaurant and arriving at the table. He plops down on the booth seat, Austin greeting him, but no response. Cody instead buries himself in the menu, blocking his face from meeting Austin's. Now a bit puzzled by the characteristics shown, Austin asks if something is wrong. Cody drops the menu. He exposes a moderate gash just above his eyebrow. The wound is now scabbed, but it's noticeably shallow, not requiring stitches. But Wartle still seems somewhat unsteady. Before Austin can ask about the source of the wound, Cody fires into a rant. "I don't know what is wrong with me," he exclaims, desperation piercing through his apparent anguish. "I can't see straight. I can't think straight. I can't..." He stops, realizing how aggressive he is coming off. Austin, taken aback, begins to ponder to himself if maybe this is the product of some poor performances. As he begins to reassure his unsteady guest, the gesture is quickly cut off. "I'm not worried about racing," Wartle responds. "I'm worried about..." He pauses. Austin can tell a lump is developing in his throat. He takes a moment and then gathers himself. "I'm worried about my life." The words echo across the table. The noisy kitchen sounds and chatter of local patrons are quiet to the two men that stare at each other. Austin doesn't know what to do, what to think. He thought that this fellow dinner was just going to be a get-to-knowing stage of one of his fellow competitors. Instead, Cody has just poured his heart out to him, and it's obvious that he nor Austin have any clue what is wrong with him. There's only one thing that is apparent to Austin as he stares across the table at the man he's only known for 2 months. Someone or something has driven Cody to the edge.